So lately I've hit quite a bit of a writer's block when it comes to my scripts because god damn it, Earthrise has been a bit much to handle, okay? A Titan-class Scorponok was released, the mercenaries and Quintessons invented their own factions out of their ass. They released the first ever Quintesson judge that transforms into a micro jail. It's been a shit show. That's why, of course, I'm only about 15 to 20 figures behind the rest of the world, because some people are reviewing Wave 3 already, and Christ knows how they got them. In a generation where Prime vs. Prime and Tauntaun can make reviews that make you want to take a power drill to your fucking eardrums from broken English being devoid of any real passion, and to getting figures a year earlier than the rest of the world, it's really fucking hard to formulate an adequate educated opinion on where you stand on a figure when shit that hasn't even come out yet saturates the shit out of the internet. I've knocked the figure I'm going to review today quite a bit for its shitty quality control on the hips, but I've definitely grown to love the figure over time. That being said, let's take a look at Earthrise Leader Class Double Dealer. The only G1 reference from this guy was the one time where he gambled himself off a casino planet to free himself from the Quintessons because Generation 1 smoked some hard drugs to come up with their plots. Except the Grahula Power Glide, that's some Pulitzer-worthy shit for another day. So here it is, my review on Double Dealer. Double Dealer's first mode is an ICBM missile launcher, with an absolutely huge rocket that reminds us he in and of himself is mutually assured destruction for the right price. This vehicle mode should have me simping for it really goddamn hard, but there's some serious issues I have with it. Call it a pet peeve, but I fucking hate hollow front to the vehicle mode. And yes, I understand that might be a necessary transformation design element, but if there's one thing on the thighs this thing have taught us, it's that certain design elements should be done away with even if they are accurate. The guy originally came with two Micromasters, or Godmasters in the correct sense of the term, named Knock and Scar. These two assholes were only made available in the Soundwave Spy Patrol Unit 3 pack, that's now being sold for $40 on Amazon, because fuck you, I guess. As a bonus round review, I guess I can shove them in with Wing Thing and whoever the fuckatron, because I don't really want to get political here. It's Frenzy. You can rotate the chest compartment and flip it down 180 degrees and put in an engine, and you can even remove the engine block on Double Dealer's stomach and attach it to the 5mm port on Knock. You can do the same thing on Scar in this mode, or save him for his bird mode like he's supposed to be, you G1 source material defying fucks. This thing is also compatible with the Adaptable Interconnection Retrofitter gimmick, or the dumbass abbreviated name trying to sound intelligent describing a simple clip system. This figure does include a modulator rocket launcher base that you can access by flipping down the stabilizers and flipping up the rocket. This is a really cool feature that has me geeking out like a friend-depraved dork that I am. Everything on this mode shares a black defect compatibility, because if you haven't been living in a cave for the last 200 years, you should know that's literally a thing by now. This is such a cool mode that actually does an okay job of rolling, despite literally no clearance and a pair of purple wings underneath him. But the transformation into bird mode is where things kind of start to fall apart. One annoying part of every transformation on this thing is that half the transformation is just removing parts and redistributing them across the figure. The illusion of being a cohesive vehicle mode falls apart when you take all of the accessories off. In his bird mode, Leader Class Double Dealer does the whole being a rectangle with wings and a bird head thing that all of the beast modes seem to do except for Snapdragon, who's just some whole other shit. I like this dumb mold more than I thought it was going to, and I don't know whether it's a giant fucking artillery backpack or the hilarious fan-made G1 robot chicken rocket penis mode he can pull off, or if it's inserting a fire blast effect to make it look like he's taking a fire piss or, well, you know, kill me. You can put Cliff Jumper or smaller deluxes on top of him to ride him into battle if you want to do something of really glorious stupidity, or you can store Knock in the engine port if you wanted to deploy Rat Bat repaint out of his taint, but it's only held by the cockpit of the missile launcher that haphazardly folds down in the chest compartment. There are quite a few fiddly annoying ass bits you have to go through in order to get the parts realigned to transformation as well. The robot arms had to be bent in an awkward and specific way in order for them to fold underneath the bird mode, and it really doesn't even achieve that worthwhile of a result. The bird and robot head are an absolute pain in the shit to rotate because the robot head barely has enough clearance to go through the other side. And the thighs. The goddamn thighs. You have to be careful on this step. This is where I popped one of his thighs off when I pushed the black pegs in their tabs just to slightly compress the rear end of the bird mode a bit. If you pop these thighs off, good goddamn luck getting them back on because they're built in an incredibly stupid way. I'll show off what I mean more in robot mode, but trust me, you do not want the thighs to pop off on this thing. But the sculptage on the bird mode is amazing otherwise in the areas that aren't just vehicle mode kibble or hollowness. The head looks incredible and majestic in the dumbest way possible, and the gigantic number of guns looks stupid in the most awesome possible way. The wings are gorgeously sculpted and painted, but not looking too aerodynamic on this batshit body type. And lo and behold, the sole purpose of this artillery backpack is to block off the gaping hollowness on the top of the bird that's disgusting in its presentation, much like the presidential debates. I feel like this was a deterrent on giving him a rocket giant bird penis, but you can still give him a rocket giant bird penis if you're into rocket giant bird penises. Have I said rocket giant bird penis enough yet? Anyways, the posability doesn't really do a whole lot to fix it either. This bird mode includes a rotating head, opening and closing mouth, all kinds of wing flappage, and leg and toe movement. There really isn't much you can do in the posability department, and I don't think there's really intention of that being the case. Nothing really balances all that well unless it's balanced perfectly straight, and the basis support doesn't allow for a user-friendly animation process. Not only is it not stable, but it's really goddamn thin. But I don't feel like this thing is trying to fool you into saying that this is a majestic disguise or posable graceful thing. This is just flying rampage blow shit up mode. But despite the fact it isn't trying to be fancy, I feel like it sacrificed a bit too much of its quality in the movement, and is therefore the most compromised mode in my opinion. There's a difference between not being fancy and not being good, and I feel like this kind of rides that line. Onto the bipedal chunk mode. This robot mode has the appearance of emanating big dick energy and has an absolute dump truck of weapons to compensate for his relatively small leader class size. The sculpting on this guy is abso-goddamn-lutely amazing though. His head sculpt rules with the sharp, laser-focused edges and red eyes that make him look like an alpha male. The giant shoulder-mounted rocket and gigantic murder cannon seem like the appropriate weapons for him and all of his chonk to hold. The engine block detailing is better than sex, and all of the vents and technical layouts on this thing absolutely rock. I'm a sucker for stickering detail being turned into sculpting, and this guy has a ton of that detail across the figure. The chest, arms, shins, legs, and feet all have detail that used to be stickers that was turned into sculpting and painting, and it really knocks this look out of the ballpark with that detailing. Here's the thing though, his legs fucking suck. The thighs are attached via a mushroom peg that has a tiny plastic nub on the inside to prevent the thighs from popping out, but the only thing they do is make it impossible to goddamn fix when they inevitably do pop out. The clamshell and the packaging had the thighs in really tight on mine, and the first thing I had to do was go through the agony of fixing them by sanding down a tiny plastic nub on top of the mushroom peg by hand with 60 grit sandpaper for 2 godforsaken hours to fix them. I just barely managed to pop the thigh back on by sheer luck, and you have to angle the legs out before you rotate the thighs, otherwise this will happen to you. The stupidest part about this decision is that this is all because they just had to have the wheels at the front of the leg instead of allowing them to go somewhere else, because Christ forbid you do one thing outside the G1 source material and the fanboys are gonna throw a fit. This is a classic example of something that Kit Catastrophe pointed out in his review on Spinister. Stupid, superficial G1 design elements being kept despite them being completely devoid of common sense. Despite the stupid flaws that it brings up, they have to keep it to keep the fanboys happy. But despite the stupid and easily fixable flaws, he does feature an excellent range of motion. His head rotates, his shoulders rotate and move out, bicep rotation and double jointed bend, wrist rotation, waist rotation, universal hips, knee bend, and foot tilt. Despite his absolutely big-ass beefcakey nature, Double Dealer features a fantastic amount of joint stability, making him an absolute cakewalk to animate with for the most part. The joints move really well on this thing, aside from some mild looseness in the bicep and hips. He includes a satellite dish, a small gun, a giant-ass Deathzuka, and a shoulder-mounted rocket, but he does not include his Godmasters, which I thought would have actually justified the $50 price point, so I'll review them anyways. Scar is just folding the wings down and out, and then folding down the feet. Knock is a matter of bringing down the legs, bringing the shoulders down and out, and then rotating down the hands. These two Micromasters are actually kinda decent despite my general distaste for the majority of them. The joints all move exceptionally well despite their limited articulation. These Micromasters would have justified the $50 price point if they were included, but of course life doesn't work that way. These things were only sold in the horseshit 4-pack, selects online only exclusive, including Wing Thing and whoever the fuck his name is to Tron, because I don't want to get political. Again, it's Frenzy. But half the set goes with Soundwave and half the set goes with Double Dealer, which not only breaks up the uniformity and common sense of the pack, but resulted in scalpers going and buying up every last copy of them on Earth and selling them for double the retail price. I really wish these two had come with Double Dealer to begin with, because Double Dealer is a decent figure. It took me a while to get used to him and get over his flaws, because believe me, he had some really stupid ones at first, but once I got the thing goddamn fixed, and started playing with it a little bit more, I started to enjoy it over time. It's so easy to take a figure right out of the box, transform it once or twice, and then formulate an opinion on it, letting our inherent biases of initial problems we experience at the beginning of owning the figure get in the way of formulating a logical, educated opinion on it. And in an era of Prime vs. Prime coming out with the earliest possible reviews, making competition literally impossible on the YouTube algorithm, it's difficult to really take the time to consider a figure that has flaws that you don't like and think of it as being something that is flawed but still fun to have. No, he isn't perfect, and maybe I got ragged on the QC quite a bit, but I think that Double Dealer's robot mode rocks so much in and of itself, even with all the parts forming required between modes, that he's a respectable 8.5 out of 10. His big beefcake nature emanates big dick energy, but I do have to say he doesn't feel like a $50 figure. I would say that he's a $50 figure if he included Knock and Star, but if you can find this guy at a discount, I would say give him a chance. It isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's a figure that's grown on me over time. Oh, also, boo or some shit, because it's Halloween by the time I upload this, I think, if it gets done on time.